Welcome to the Mental Pulse podcast. Today we have with us Mr. Rod Flowers. Welcome, Rod.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, doing well, doing well. Hey, so Rod, to get us going, please start off telling us who you are, your background, and your athletic identity story.
Okay. My name is Rod Flowers. I'm originally from Huntsville, Alabama. Um, Grew up, went to Butler High School back in the day. Um, Played basketball all of my years in middle school, high school. I didn't go to middle school in Huntsville. I was middle school. I was in Uniontown, Alabama, which is a small city. That's where my dad was from. So I moved to Huntsville when I was in the ninth grade. I mean, 10th grade, after my ninth grade year. Went to Butler, uh, played there for 3 years, and also played basketball. Fortunate enough to get a scholarship to go play at University of Cincinnati. Played there, and then fortunate enough to play 5 years professionally overseas. Uh, Sports has taught me a lot. I mean, it's really without sports, I don't even think I would even be. I don't know where I would be to be honest with you without sports, man. It's from the mental approach, from the the grinding. At each level, you learn a little bit more about yourself. In high school, you're going off natural ability. You get to college, it's more grinding and talent level is the same, and then you start being professional, is more about taking care of your body, doing things like that you wouldn't people do for you in college that you had to do for yourself when you become a pro. So, but yeah, uh, yeah.
Okay.
I hope I answered. Hope I answered the
Yeah, you
question.
did. You did. So going back to Cincinnati, so you played at Butler. Let's go back there. You played at
Mhm.
Butler. So you played during the time that they had this really good girls team, right? And the
Yes,
number
I
one team in the
played. Yep,
country.
yep. But our girls, man, it's crazy because when I was my 10th grade year with Nikki Tibbs and Tashika Morris and Von Kurt.
Yeah.
Uh, Tar Taylor, all them girls, man. But anyway, back in high school, when I first got to Butler, um, they used to practice like 5 o'clock in the morning. Feel like it. I don't know, like crazy. So by the time we get to school, they be drenched out, they didn't worked out or whatever. And the games, and we was pretty good too. Now we was pretty good as far as ranked in the state. I think we was probably top five to
Mm-hmm.
top five teams in the state my whole time at Butler. But our girls' games used to be packed to
Yes.
where, like, I mean, the JV play, the girls be packed, and then we became solid. So a lot of the fans used to roll over to some of our games, but most of them from the girls early on, man, they used to be blowing people out. Like I remember the state championship game, they beat somebody about damn near 100 points.
Oh
Like
yeah.
Jesus
Oh
Christ.
yeah. They killed us when I was a freshman and I played at Lee. So they killed us my freshman year.
Pressing, shooting threes, pressing, shooting threes, pressing,
Yes.
shooting threes. And Tashika was you can go to her and get a bucket if you need a bucket, but if not, it was up and down. All D Commons, Joy, all them girls, man. So yeah, that
Yeah. That's
was a good
absolutely.
time.
In this day and age, you're called Tashika Morris a walking bucket.
Right. She had to pull up mid range, she can post. I mean, she was the linchpin and all of that, She kind of she did everything, So yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So after Butler, you went to University of Cincinnati. Did you play with Chad Moore? Any?
Yes, yes. Me and Chad played together in college. I went to Butler. I mean, I went to Cincinnati University after I was 6A player of the year my senior year at Butler. I first team All State 6A whatever, and then I ended up going to Cincinnati. It was between Alabama and Cincinnati. I ended up choosing to go to Cincinnati because I wanted to be away from home. And I went up there, and I think Chad came up at my junior year. So beginning of my junior year was Chad freshman year. So we played together
Okay,
1 year.
okay, okay. And just talk about your experience while you played in Cincinnati.
It's crazy. When at the time, Cincinnati, like it was the number one team in the country when I was. So they were sponsored by Jordan, number one team in the country. And coach come in, recruit you or whatever. Now when you get to campus, You got like a week to kind of get your mind right. I say get your mind right. You got like a week to understand. He give you a week. He don't say nothing. That second week of practice, oh my goodness, he treats you like you're a veteran. I mean, cussing, fussing. I mean, but it was good for me though. It was coming from Alabama, man, coming from high school in Alabama. You just even anybody. I mean, you can contest to this. In high school, you going off talent.
Right.
Everything's talent. You talent. You ain't got to block. Like I remember it's a crazy story. I used to block a lot of shots in high school. So when I got to college, uh, taking charges. Like
Yes.
coach, like you got to take a charge. And I'm like, what? Why I take a charge for? Like, and I remember, man, my first practice, like my first week or so week in practice, coach was getting on me for not taking charges, and he made me line up under the basket, and I had to take a charge on the whole team.
Oh,
Now,
geez.
you know, and then he took a charge on me, at the end of that, like, type deal. But it's just amazing. Like I learned so much. The strength and the speed of the game, and then the the being in multiple places. You got study hall and practice and trying to fit all that into your daily schedule. It for a freshman, 18-year-old, it
It's a
it
lot.
it can be, yeah, it don't slow down into like your sophomore year. It slows down a little bit, but that freshman year, man, you a deer in headlights. You can't even remember you just don't want to be late to nothing. I guess
Right.
that's the key.
And remember the
But yeah, it was
sets and all
it was a
that.
good experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, we used to practice 3 hours a day
Oh, geez.
every day, and out of them 3 hours, 2 hours was on defense. So about 2 hours, 2:15 was all defense, defensive slides and stuff like that. So it made me a better player cerebrally, like knowing what defense is trying to do and trying to find the soft spots and zones. I became more of a student of the game, but great experience for me. Great experience.
So compare the Cincinnati coach. I'm assuming it was Bob Huggins at the time, right?
Bob Huggins, yep,
And
Huggins
Jack
one.
Doss. Compare those two. What's the difference? What's the
Uh,
similarities?
Jack, Jack just let you be you. When I said that, Jack was more of, he used to. Jack strengths came in from letting us play. I don't know how I don't think kids play like we played back. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we used to play. I mean, we used to play all day. I mean, Jack used to open the gym and just let us play, 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 play. So we was familiar with each other. We knew each other's spots. We knew each other wanted the ball. So when the season rolled around, it was easier for us. Bob Huggins and Jack wasn't a fussing and cussing type person.
Mm-hmm.
Jack, I ain't never heard Jack Dawson cuss. At least not as to a player. Now he probably said stuff to a referee, but to a player. Fast forward to Bob Huggins, totally opposite. Gonna cuss you, and I think Hugs, his approach was to try to get under your skin, right? So he'll do and say anything to get under your skin to make you react the way he wanted to. Because the main thing out of him was the reaction.
Right.
Was what it's gonna take for me to get this kid to be fired up and go out here and play hard. So he had those, and his way of doing it was getting on you, multiple times. So yeah, it was a different. I mean, going from Jack to Bob Huggins was, man. But I had a daddy that was kind of cussing and fussing, so it wasn't as bad. But it was definitely a learning, especially my freshman year. My freshman year was probably my toughest year.
So how do you deal with that from a mental standpoint, right? Because that's one of the areas I struggle with going from high school to college. Because in high school I ran it all, right? I kind of
Mm-hmm,
control what happened. Get to
mm-hmm,
college, I have somebody that's similar to Bob Huggins, but not all the way like Bob Huggins. And that
mm-hmm.
mentally just took me, I just couldn't get past that. So talk about that mental aspect of getting through that type of obstacle with your coach and the what he brings, the different type of things he brings.
Well, one of the things that helped me, was that I had other guys that I came in with, right? So I had another freshman guy named Phil Williams I came in with. So we used to talk, I had somebody I can at least talk to and say, hey man, coach tripping, man, boom, 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 whatever. But I also had my dad was big for me, um, because once I understood the main thing with Huggins, and if I had to do it all over again, I would have had a better approach than I had, but I had a pretty decent approach, is that he just wants the best out of you, right? So when you look at the grand scheme of things and when you put it all on the table and realizing that he wants the best out of you, then once I got learned and then realized that he's getting at everybody, it ain't just me, then it made me say, okay, cool. But let me try to do what I need to do. And then as I became older in the program, my sophomore, junior year, he ain't had to yell at me. Well, I said he still yelled at me, of course, but it's because I knew when I was messing up. I knew when you know what I mean? Like you already know, like, oh, here go coach. And then what it does is as you become older in it, you start tuning them out. You see what I'm saying? Because it ain't
Mhm.
about, he gonna say something, but you already in your head like, okay, yeah, I know I messed up. I was late on that ball screen. I should have got up here a little earlier, whatever. But it wasn't as bad for me because, like I said, my dad was a little tougher on me, so it wasn't as bad as as I got more in the program. Now, if I had to fast forward over again, the different approach I had because I was young, so I had an approach to where I was one of these, and I think my brother is. I think is that I need a little pat on the back sometimes. You see what I'm saying? You can't beat me down all the
All
time,
the time.
coach.
You got to have a
Like
balance, just a
you
balance.
gotta, coach. Tell me just one time. You ain't gotta tell me. You can just tell me one time. Or, hey, see how Rod? Just one time, and I'll go to bat for you.
Right.
But Hugs did more of that reverse psychology and beat to where by the time I got to be my junior year, it got a little draining because I wanted to play for another style of coach. I wanted to play for a coach that just let me do just, talk to me as instead of all the yelling and cussing and fussing. So yeah.
Right. Understand that. Because I mean, I think that's why there's been so much change in the coaching styles in college because, athletes these days aren't really going for that, all that cussing
That
and
style don't work no more.
yelling.
Nah, that style
Yeah.
don't work.
Yeah. We kind of
Nah.
passed
Yeah.
that phase right, now. So you left Cincinnati. And so where did you end up at after you left Cincinnati?
After my junior year, I graduated Cincinnati after my junior year. And a funny story, I went into coach office and said, "Hey, coach, man, I want to transfer going to my senior year." Because funny story, I wanted to transfer my sophomore year at the end of my sophomore year. I was going to transfer back to the University of Alabama. Everything was in stone. My dad talked me out of it. So fast forward my junior year, I was able to graduate, and I ended up transferring to the university to Tennessee State. And the reason why I transferred to Tennessee State was because it was closer to home, which my dad was able to come to all my games, and they offered a program which was sports administration that the University of Cincinnati didn't offer at the time. So I was able to get my master's degree in sports administration. Was my first year I sat out, and then my second year I was able to get a graduate degree and play my last year at Tennessee State. So that's one reason decided to transfer. And I didn't want to come. I wouldn't, when I said I was transferred, Tennessee State wasn't even on my top list. It's just that once I started putting two and two together and realized education and being able to get a master's degree in something that I like and being close to home, it worked out for me.
Right. So talk about that experience at Tennessee State. I mean, going from predominantly white school to going to
Yeah.
HBCU, and the I'm sure the athletic funding is not the same either.
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite different as far as because at Cincinnati we were sponsored by Jordan, so we used to get, I mean, Jesus, 25 to 30 pair of shoes every year,
Geez.
laced up. You had money in your pocket. When I said, hey, if you needed, little summer jobs or whatever, go to Tennessee State. Now, the good thing about me coming to Tennessee State, I knew what it was before I decided to go there, just off of my experience of being around Alabama A&M. You see what
Right.
I'm saying? So I kind of had an idea what to what I was going to experience. So and then I end up taking all the stuff that I learned in Cincinnati in the weight room and stuff like that, and I just implemented it, for me. But it was a the athletic part was a little struggle, but the socializing was great, man. I mean, I mean, it was night and day. So I enjoyed myself. I should say,
Uh,
and I'm glad I was able to sit out a year, because if I had to play like the rules they have now, you can play.
you can
I
play.
wouldn't have been I wouldn't have been as good, because I party, I was hanging, I mean, just trying to get accustomed to school. It took me a year to get my mind right. So I'm glad I was able to do that at the time.
Hey, they say it's nothing like going to HBCU. Some days
Oh man, it's
I think, man, I wish I had went to the HBCU.
the right HBC, the right one. Because it's some that, and I love A&M, but I don't think A&M has, I mean, it's more like you got to know people. But at Tennessee State, I mean, Nashville, you got all these different schools. I mean, you can
That's
just be a
true.
random person and just have a great college experience. You ain't really got to be friends or hang out with a whole. I mean, you can go to Fish, you can go to Vandy. I mean, it was
You're
Nashville
right.
was nice.
You're
It was
right. Pretty
nice.
good college town. Pretty good college town. So after you left Tennessee State, you went professional, right? So just talk about
Yeah.
that. What you did from a professional standpoint with basketball.
After I left Tennessee State, I played my first professional season. I played in Hungary. I played for a team called Abercom in Hungary. Played my first year there. We went to the finals. I lost in the championship, and then I played Austria, Switzerland, Belgium, France, and in Germany. I played 5 years professionally overseas in all different spots. Some of the best experiences of my life. Had to cut it short because I had five knee surgeries, not five knee surgeries in that time, too. Four knee surgeries in that time. The last one I had was after the fact, but yeah. So 2010 was my last year playing. Played in Switzerland. Um, I knew it was my last year. I knew it was close to my last year, so I wanted to I averaged a double double my last year. It was closure for me, you know what I'm saying, from my personal experience. But great time, great experience, great food, great teammates. You have those overseas stories where, I only not got paid one time, and that was my last year. Team held some money for me, but other than that, it was a great experience.
So when you said you knew it was your last year, like how did you know?
Because it's just it was I had to I was in pain.
Right.
I played through pain. I wouldn't you could people statistically you couldn't tell, but physically I wasn't. Like I had knocked a hole on my kneecap, so I had to get that cleaned out. I had tore my meniscus twice. So it just was one of them decisions to where I was saying, I got a graduate degree, I got all this stuff. Do I want to continue to play and be hurt every year, or do I want to just fast forward and get into the field of working? I know it's going to be some bumps and bruises. I know it's going to be some turbulence early on, but the earlier I get in, the better I can be when it's time for me to be, better I can be late on in life. And the toughest thing mentally is when you play sports all your life. This is all you know, right? Never had a job for real that wasn't sports related. Never had, and then now you in the real world, and you got to learn how to get up and take a lunch break and be on. It was difficult, and you got to learn how not the money you used to getting. You're not gonna get that 7, 8 thousand dollars a month. Just you're not going to get that. So you got to work. I mean, it's just a different. I think every person who had a chance to play ball overseas for a good time, that they experience it for real. Everybody have an adjustment period, moving back, getting back in the world, because the work world ain't like that. You know what I mean? You got to show people you're going to be there. Show them you're going to be on time. Show they got to trust you. And are you going back overseas and all this stuff? So it's so difficult, but I'm glad I stopped when I stopped and was able to get into, you know, uh, my life after basketball.
I understand that. I understand that. So after you decided to transition to the real world, as we say. Talk about that. So what was next? I think you ended up
I
coaching.
co- yeah, I coached at Columbia State junior college for a year. One of my assistant coaches while I was at Tennessee State ended up getting a head job at Columbia State. And they knew how much cerebral I was, so he wanted me to come in as assistant coach. I was all for it. I was done playing. I'm like, cool, assistant coach or whatever. But I want to say at the time, the stipend for assistant coach at U College was like $600 a month or something crazy. It was like 680. I don't know what it was a month. So I was trying, it's just trying to adjust with that. I was trying to teach classes there so I can kind of supplement my money or something. But what I learned about myself in that particular situation was um, is that I love sports. I love basketball. But at the time, I did not like it that much to where I'm in the poorhouse because I'm chasing guys to go to class and stuff like that. Yeah, I coached for one year,
Right.
and I'm like, bro, like, I love it. It's cool, but nah, I'm gonna have to go somewhere where I can make some money. So yeah.
Absolutely. I can completely relate. I have a undergraduate degree in computer science. And so when I left Georgia State to come back to Huntsville, I really wasn't planning to come back to Huntsville. It was, but I ended up finding a job in Huntsville with a defense contractor as a
Hmm.
software engineer. And I was like, man, some pretty good money. And so my college coach called me back to kind of work as the director of basketball operations at Georgia State.
Hmm.
And she told me the salary, and I was like, in Atlanta? Nah, I can't.
Yeah,
I'm not.
yeah, it's
Nah,
tough.
this is not where it's at.
It's
So I'm
tough.
gonna stay. I'm gonna stay where
Right.
I'm at because I had just bought a house at that time at the age of like 24, and I was like,
Hmm.
nah. So
Yeah, it's tough.
hey,
It's tough. It's definitely something that most people don't put in perspective. You hear people say, "Oh, well, I can just always coach. I can always do." Yeah, you can probably, but if you get accustomed to a certain style and a certain things you like to do, uh, that's good for somebody trying to cut their teeth. And then one thing I also learned about all of that, or I learned for myself is that when I realized that it wasn't about what you know, it's about who you know. Like
mm,
one of my college coaches, he was like, "Look, man, he's like, college coaching college basketball is not about what all you know. It's about who can you get, which players can you recruit and bring in. That's how guys get. You know, it's plenty of X's and O guys who can't recruit. You know what I'm saying? So recruiting is the main thing to get your opportunity, cut your teeth. And once I realized that portion of it, I just kind of fell into my own little realm. But I've always been a praying person. I mean, I've always prayed, talked to God, and one of my prayers was to be able to play professional basketball. I asked God for that. He blessed me to do it, and I also asked Him when professional basketball is over, I want to be able to have a lifestyle to where I still feel like I'm playing, traveling wise, and with flexibility, but I'm not. You know what
right.
I'm saying? Be able to take care of my family, but God has always answered my prayer. So I didn't set out to be a college coach. It ain't like I said, God, because if I wanted to be a college coach, I think I could have, but I just that ain't never been my goal. My goal was to be able to earn money and take care of my family. So that's ultimately what it
I understand that. I understand that. So what are you doing now after you finish? You decided to stop coaching. What did you end up
I
doing?
stopped. I coached for a year, and then after that, it was more like finding your way, man. It was that whole finding your way in life. I worked a couple odd. I mean, I'm in the first job. I was making like $9 an hour, man. I'm like, what I'm gonna do with this, dude? By the time they tax me, oh my goodness! But I had to start there. But I found my way, and then I got an opportunity. I coached for a year, and then I ended up working on the Arsenal for a year in the logistics department. It was a good job on paper, sound good, but it had good benefits. So I was able to get my last knee surgery done to
Okay.
clean up my knee. So I was able to, do that. And then one of my buddies is funny story. One of my buddies that I played with overseas was had got into telecom. So he was recruiting me. He was like, man, you need to get into telecom. I'm like, man, I don't know anything about no telecom. He was like, well, I ain't know that either. You get into telecom. So finally, after I was working on the arsenal, got my knee surgery, he hit me up again. And I'm like, okay, how much it pays? And he told me or whatever. And I ended up moving to Cleveland, Ohio, as getting on as a contractor, like a field contractor, like basically overseeing field operations. And that was about 12 years ago, and the rest is history. I've been up here ever since. I've been in Ohio ever since. I've graduated. Now I'm a project manager at T-Mobile.
Okay.
I do like cell tower upgrades, cell sites. Uh, but funny story. My dad is a construction. My dad owns a construction company, so a lot of stuff I already knew as
Hmm.
far as basic stuff like learning how to read blueprints, learn how to read drawings, stuff like that. So as I progressed in my career, progressed, and it doesn't hurt being a tall guy, 6'9", 6'8", 6'9" guy walking around, you know what I'm saying? Being a construction guy. So I was able to use what I had. And yeah, I'm a project manager. I've been with T-Mobile for what, 11 years now? 11
Okay.
years as a project manager. So yeah.
Okay. So you talk quite often about your dad. I take that's your support system. So talk about your support system in addition to your dad.
Some like my mom,
Your mom,
my mom,
whoever is your
yeah.
support
Uh,
system.
it was my dad was majority of my support system. When I say my support system, my dad keeps it real, probably to a fault, but he keeps it real. And if you tell my dad was the type. If I told him I want to do something, he was gonna make sure I do that. Like, he gonna put his foot on, this is what you want to do. Boom. My mom, same thing. She's but you know how moms are.
Oh yeah.
Moms with boys, it's just you can tell moms ain't gonna put too much pressure on you. Your dad is gonna put the heat on you. So I think my dad has been the most support system I've had. My aunties, my uncle, and also me being a big brother to having little siblings. I've always wanted to be the one to do it the right way or be the first one to do it. Like prime example, like I went to school, undergrad, got my degree, got my graduate degree, was able to play basketball. All my siblings has went to college and graduated. Now, all of them don't have graduate degrees, but the fact that I was the first one to set the trend, it put the bar up so high to they said, hey, I at least got to graduate. My big brother, he got his graduate degree. I at least got to graduate. So I feel kind of prideful of that. But we kind of support each other, man. My siblings, being the first one. I mean, I don't know if you was the first one in your family or whatever. It's just being the first one, you kind of learning as you go. My dad talked a good game. My dad's a good guy, you know what I'm saying? But he ain't never played college sports. So trying to, it's only so much you can tell me, that I can relate to. Everything else I'm gonna have to experience myself, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Uh, but yeah, I think my dad, my family, they've been great. I mean, I've always said like my dad used to drive from Huntsville to Cincinnati, come to the game, turn around, drive all the way back home.
Oh
Didn't
my
get no
goodness.
sleep, didn't do nothing just to see me play. And being a boy, it's like stuff like you ain't got to tell me you love me. That's my parent. My dad doing something like that. I already know you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, he messed with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't had to tell me that. So doing stuff like that kind of made me realize, show you how fortunate I was just to have my father in my life, man. Because a lot of people don't have their dad or mom or have my parents in my life. You know what I'm saying? So he was always there, uh, talking me off the ledge in college. Multiple times. I said off the ledge,
Yes.
but you know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
know what you're talking about. My parents were
you
there too.
know,
They kept
coach,
me. They kept
coach,
me
coach,
state. They
coach
kept me in
getting on
Georgia
my
State.
nerves.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
They
Yeah,
kept me at
so
Georgia State. That's how that's how I ended up staying there for the length of my time because I was tempted to come back to A&M and play
right.
basketball. So, but yeah, my dad played collegiate baseball. Sorry, at Mississippi Valley State. But
Okay.
with me playing basketball is completely different. So
Hmm.
we really couldn't relate because he only played it for 1 year, and
Hmm.
so he didn't really
Hmm.
play it for a long length of time. But yeah, so you have one sibling that's a professional football player. His name is Trey
Yeah,
Flowers, and who does he play
yeah.
for again?
He plays for the Miami Dolphins now. He's this is his eighth year in the league. He was drafted. He went to Columbia High School in Huntsville. He got a scholarship to Arkansas. Played there for 4 years. Got drafted by the New England Patriots in the fourth round. First pick in the fourth round. Played there for 4 years. He won two Super Bowls. Went to three Super Bowls. Was a starter all three Super Bowls. Played 3 years in Detroit, and then now 1 year in Miami. So
Okay.
yeah, all of my siblings played sports in college. All my little brothers played. I was the only one to play basketball. Everybody else played football. But he was a prime example of looking at older brothers, looking at me, see what I did, see what my other brothers did, came up with his own. He's like, okay, I'm gonna take this from him. I'm gonna take that from him. I'm gonna take that from him, and it worked out for him. He's a great kid, great person, humble. So he's year 8. He's out now. He broke his foot.
Oh
He broke
man.
his what's he had a Liz Frank, so he broke his foot like fourth game of the season.
Okay.
So he's out. He's out for the year, but he's with the Miami Dolphins. So yeah, he's always been my dad probably, if you ask my dad, he probably more proud of Trey, probably say, than most. But you know how parents are. You got your favorite kids. But yeah, he's been able to do to do great things. And hopefully some great things more. Some more great things.
Absolutely. And I'm sure he learned a lot, like you said, from you. You was able to kind of show him the ropes, what it was like to be
Yeah.
professional.
Yeah. And then, one thing that I talked to him and my other siblings about is that I made it reachable. You know what I'm saying? I said reachable. When I went to school, I brought back gear and gloves, stuff like that to make them, like when I went to Cincinnati, I used to have basketball stuff, and I used to go to football office, get football gloves, bring my little brother them gloves and stuff, and all that stuff did was make them even want it even more. You know what I mean? You
Right.
got somebody that can just, bend the ropes. And it's a great story about me. After my senior year at Tennessee State, uh, I was playing in an All Star game in Cleveland, Ohio, Black College All Star game, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers called me. Doug
Oh,
Williams called me. I went down. They wanted me to come down for rookie minicamp as a tight end. So I went to Tampa Bay down there for a week for rookie minicamp. Never played. Hey, never played high school football. Never played nothing. So, but just off my athleticism and my size and ability, because my coach used to tell me like to watch the Redskins here today, the Titans here, the Vikings. So I had like multiple NFL teams used to watch me play basketball. So, but make a long story short, I was able to bring back all that gloves and helmet and cleats and all that stuff back to my little siblings, man. And I think that was a huge part because when you little, man, little things like that go a long way. I mean, people become fans of teams by just going to their first
yeah.
Cowboys game when they was 8 years old and got their
Right.
jersey signed by. It's crazy. But yeah, that's the story behind it. And I don't know if he remember it into detail as much, but yeah, I always made sure I kind of gave let them feel what was I was the first one to do everything. So
Right. So what happened at the Tampa Bay Bucks?
well,
I mean, what they say?
well, well, what happened is I hadn't played, so I went there rookie camp for a week. They wanted me to play in the NFL Europe. like because at the time it was the NFL Europe and stuff like
Gotcha.
that.
Okay.
Me personally, I did it just because it was an experience. And I'm like, listen, I got cats that because at the time I was at Tennessee State. I got guys at Tennessee State football team would never get an NFL workout in their whole life and then play football all their life.
Right.
So the fact that I can go down here to camp, do stuff, do this, I'm all in. And when it came down to that, I had some contracts, I had a couple basketball contracts in place. And my dad at the time, he was, you need to play football. And I'm like, Dad, if I would have played football now, I wish I would have played like either in high school or one of my years, the year I sat out at Tennessee State, I could have played football then, played tight end. It would have been more of a, I could have saw it more, but I was locked in going overseas playing basketball and got my contract from Hungary. I was like, I'm going to play basketball. And my dad was a little upset at the time, but he got over it.
Right. Okay. Wow, that's interesting because you don't hear that happen much with athletes kind of cross sports like that, especially on a professional level. A sport you've been playing all
Yeah,
your life, and then you get called to do something else that isn't the sport you
yeah,
actually played ever. So,
yeah, yeah. That's what happened, man. I got was it Mike Tomlin? Was the Marty John Gruden was the head coach for the Tampa
mhm.
Bay Buccaneers at the time. Mike Tomlin was special team coach. Marty Kiffin. I mean, I got a picture with everybody, but it was a great experience. It's crazy because when I first got there, right, they asked you, so what kind of face mask you want? I'm like, dude, like they got a book. It's like 100 face masks. I'm like, man,
Wow.
I don't know. Like, I don't want to say I don't know because then they'll say, because these are equipment guys I'm talking to. So I didn't want to say I didn't know, but I'm like, oh yeah, just well, I was like, what you think? You know what I mean? They said, oh, but yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
That is
It was a great experience.
Hey, that is funny. Hey, so Rod, hey, thank you so much for joining us today. It has definitely been a pleasure. And hey, I want you to take care and enjoy. You take care.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. All right.
All right.
Bye.